typically the arm slot is dictated by two things. One, where the torso is pulling, right? Two, timing. So like if your timing was messed up, your arm is going to be messed up, right? Like in terms of where it's coming out. Because you're gonna try and pull it either closer, or if it was in tight, you're gonna try and spiral it out away to get some of the acceleration into there, right? What's happening with you and why you're feeling bicep pain is because you're releasing with a bent arm. Why are you releasing with a bent arm? Because you're trying to go into internal rotation early in coming out of layback. The reason you're trying to do that is you're not decelerating well from here, from your lower half, from your pelvis, right? You're not decelerating well. And now because of like how you threw coming out of arm care, off of surgery, you're now trying to get your torso to match the position that your arm is trying to go in. Because you're just coming here and trying to push through the ball. So you're trying to pull into this slot, right? As you pull into this slot, it's fine to be in this, right? But we'd obviously still want to match our plane that we're coming through. You can't match it because you can't decelerate your torso through this plane because you're not used to that. That's just not how you've thrown all the years leading up, right? You were very transverse dominant. You did not go into this massive triplanar pull, right? So if you're not decelerating at the pelvis, because we know that, because we can just see the knee continuing to move, right, after we've landed, and then you're just sort of pulling off into this plane like this, you're just sort of pulling through release. So what's happening is your bicep is taking the brunt of it because you're trying to decelerate your body and your arm right through that slot, as opposed to being able to accelerate a little bit further, having already decelerated here, pass it through, and then decelerate later. So you're just so out of plane as you're going to make that throw. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Which is why, like, okay, hey, how do we fix this problem? Like, easiest way to fix this problem is literally forget all of the horseshit that I just talked about. Like, I'm telling you, yeah, that's why it is, because I know you and I know how we work, and I know you have to understand why we're saying that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we just have to do stuff that's going to allow you to self-organize back into your smooth pattern. And you just have to trust that's what you need to be doing, as opposed to adhering to some return to throw that says you have to be at 97.3% in this bullpen, as opposed to 98% in this bullpen, right? It doesn't make any sense. You're just not throwing naturally right now. And throwing is a very natural action. So we have to go to much more implicit style throws, get you back to feeling athletic as you're making that movement so that you can self-organize, because this is extremely distal, which means there's an issue proximal right now, right? So we have an issue at the pelvis and an issue at the torso that they are not helping organize this because you're focused on this. So you're altering this, which is then making this totally out of whack, because all of our attention is here. We need to bring our attention back to here. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Make sense for you?
Yeah. I was just kind of, when I was pushing off, like actually pushing off, I felt more like I had more behind it, but like I didn't have, like when I landed, like my body was like in a different place. And I was
right, because you couldn't organize those because you weren't used to that kind of energy transferring down, right? So you probably didn't understand how to decelerate at the pelvis and decelerate at that, which it's great that we're having the conversation about what acceleration and deceleration might look like or seem like, but ultimately at the end of the day, what we're going to do is we're going to do a bunch of different style movements that are going to try and just get you to self-organize, where all I want you to focus on is one very like simple cue. Remember what we talked about earlier? What do I want you to do with the water bag?
Stop hitting the back.
I want it to just sound loud every time you're making one of those throws. That's it. Just make that sound really loud, and the more and more you sync those up, you'll start to be like, oh, that's very easy. I feel that, and it feels really fluid. Then we start to make our way back to the major gross pattern of throwing a baseball. You guys are good athletes too. It shouldn't take that long. But it can't be twice a week. You know what I mean? You're coming here to get data, basically, and then not utilizing data.
Yeah, the only reason I stopped is because I wanted my focus to be on putting the ball where I wanted it to, and I just didn't feel like that
Yeah, I mean, we can still try and be accurate out of a lot of those drills and out of those throws. That's fine. But initially, all I want your focus to be is auditory or visual, where we're throwing it, right? I don't want it to be internal, thinking about what the action should feel like or anything like that. Does that make sense? I want it as far away from internal as possible. Cool? So we'll go with sounds, we'll go with hitting a location, we'll go with what it sounds like when it's coming out of your hand, those things. Not with, hey, what did my hip do here? Hey, what did my torso do here?
Yeah.